Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with international best-selling author, speaker, and coach Tracee Lydia Garner. As an international best-selling author of 18 books, she writes fiction and nonfiction depicting African Americans triumphing over adversity and meeting success, whether that be in love or life pursuits. She loves public speaking, teaching workshops, and talking about her craft at every opportunity. She is the creator of Garner Solutions that coaches new and aspiring writers through finishing the book and the publishing process, as well as helping people with disabilities reach their independent living goals. She holds a BS in communications and resides outside the D.C. metropolitan area with her family. Enjoy this interview.
All right, cool. We'll get right after it. Tracee, thank you for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So the first thing I would like to ask you is, surviving the last 3.5 years, how did you get through this pandemic, and how did it change you?
Well, I think that one thing I'll say, one good thing that came out of the pandemic was it lessened the ability for, supervisors, bosses, directors, the CEOs to deny people with disabilities an opportunity to work from home. I think that we have always, as people with disabilities, we've always been kind of lower on the totem pole to be granted the work from home opportunities. And so the pandemic removed those barriers and those hurdles in order to employ more. It's not perfect, but it's still way more than it used to be. And I remember pre-pandemic asking my employer, I need to work from home. My wheelchair is broken. I'll be able to get things done on the computer. I could still talk to everybody. We still had Zoom even before pandemic. And, I just got a flat outright no, like, what can you do from home? And just the added scrutiny, really drove me crazy. And they were power tripping just because they could, just because they were in a position of power to deny you. And now, come March 2020, and guess you got to work from home. Everybody has to. So, just to have, it was a devastating, event. We hope to never see it again, but it looks like it's here to stay, and that's unfortunate. The lives lost, all of that was a horrible part of the experience, but it uncovered people's power to micromanage and have the ability to deny you something that now everybody is doing, and we find ways to be more efficient, to co-work, to have meetings. We have so many platforms beyond Zoom in which we can get things done. And so that was liberating. That was a great thing. And that was something that we desperately needed to level the playing field.
That too is telehealth, to have to get away from commuting and doing all of that. You can actually have levels of healthcare, even an increased awareness of mental health too.
Definitely. I mean, mental health is supposed to be now partly covered by Medicaid. People that are on some of these government assistance programs, as I have been as a college student, when I didn't have employment, when I didn't have insurance, mental health counseling, dental, and vision were not part of the equation. And, that's just so dumb. You're talking about some of the poorest and some of the sickest, and it's just ridiculous. Oh.
So, you're very talented. You got a lot of things going on as a coach and as a speaker and as an author. But if I was to put you in front of a bunch of third grade students at Career Day, and one of the kids curiously asked you, hey, what do you do for a living? How would you answer that child?
Yeah, I would tell them, I get to tell lies for a living, and in my career choice, it is A-OK, but only in the world, only where you get to set your imagination free. And, that it's so fun to world build and to be, like a little god orchestrating what's happening to your characters and building worlds where other people can escape and dream and even be better than they are in fictional worlds, and even sometimes in nonfiction for creative literary nonfiction. It's a wonderful opportunity to even live vicariously through your characters. And I think there's no bullying. There is bullying, but you can say and dictate what you want to happen. And that is such a fun, mentally liberating experience.
So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be? What was your dream?
I wanted to be a Janet Jackson backup dancer. And I loved Janet Jackson. I went to see her. It was one of my first concerts. I think Tina Turner was my very first concert, but I went to see a Janet Jackson concert in my teens. And in third grade, she was all the rage, Control and all the albums that preceded that was like about liberating yourself and, shaking your booty all across the stage, but just her work ethic. Janet Jackson is the Beyonce, or was the Beyonce of my time and of my little mind back then. And so I just wanted to be on stage. I didn't even want to be the center of attention. Just wanted to be part of a team, be able to choreograph. I still think about choreographing. I'm hoping to write a story about a rejected Dancing with the Stars dancer one day who returns to a staunchly religious hometown. And so I just think about how fun that is, how it is to be a part of a team and to be on stage with a superstar, even though you're not the main act. There's just something communal and familial about that. And that just was wow, I'm going to be a backup dancer for Janet Jackson.
Awesome. So as a prolific writer with 20 books, what was the first book or an early book when you were growing up that really inspired you, opened the gates up to wanting to read more or write?
What really resonated with me was a wonderful teacher who I hope to see one day. I don't know where he is, but I always remember him. I dedicated one of my first books to him with a little shout out in the acknowledgments, and that was John Brennan, who was actually a teacher's aide. He wasn't even, I love my kindergarten teacher, but he was the teacher's aide, and during Circle Story Time, he made the fictional world of Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing by Judy Blume come alive. I was mesmerized. I could not wait till Circle Time. So it wasn't just the story. It was a great story. I loved that. I read it several times. But it was the way in which he was animated and he had inflection in his tone. All of those things brought the story alive. And that's what I hope that I bring to my own stories. But he was just a regular guy, but a teacher's aide. Some people that get low on the totem pole, but he was my absolute favorite in all the Judy Blumes, Beverly Clearys of the world. All of those people just wrote these stories, but it was really, the magic was in the telling of it that made me so happy and made me want to escape to other worlds where all kinds of crazy, zany, and silly things happen.
So what was the first story that you wrote where you were like, this makes sense, this is my life, I need to write?
It really was probably out of necessity more than the story. I love my own writing. When I read my own work sometimes, I'm like, who wrote this? Seriously, this was not me. It's almost like an out-of-body experience where I know, the Holy Spirit and God is, helping me to write my books, because I just can't believe it at the end of so many words, 80,000 words, 90,000 words. But during college, I was being rejected in a relationship. I was failing math for liberal arts. Those things brought about a necessity to find alternatives to my academics. I told God one night, I was like, I don't know if this academic thing is going to work. If I don't pass, please give me something else. And so I hurried up and finished a book, a novella, for this contest that I saw online. So I entered the contest. I wrote the book as fast as I could. I researched everything I could about novel and story structure, and it just came alive. And I know it was God, because I won the contest. I got a trip to New York. I got a monetary advance and, of course, publication of the book. And that entire thing changed my life. So when I read my own story and look back over it, and still to this day, I'm like, who wrote this? I still can't believe it. I know I have spiritual help, and to continue putting out book after book. I thought I'd do a couple books and be like, okay, that was fun. But after book 10 and then 15 and then 20, I'm like, wow, I think I'm on to something here. But you never quite believe you'll be able to put out another volume of work and words strung together that makes sense. You never think that you'll be able to keep repeating that somehow. But I know after now that, I'm in it for the long haul. I hope to get to book 50, book 75, book 100, in my lifetime. It's going to be something, but I'm here for it.
Wonderful. So on this path of inspiration in your life, who's been a hero for you?
My heroes are, my dad, my mom, my brother, but like Maya Angelou, who had so much adversity, Oprah, but then also myself. I feel like I am the heroine in a story that is filled with, I don't know who the writer of this story, I know who the writer of the story is, but just so much adversity, so much to overcome, to really fight myself. I'm like the hero, the heroine, and the villain at the same time, because mentally you do create barriers for yourself, and then you talk to yourself and you overcome them. And as conceited as that sounds, we're all really trying to best ourselves. Of course, we have comparisonitis and we look at what other people are doing, but that really comes back to us, to kind of not beating us or besting us, but just doing better each and every single day that we are given to make it better, to make it ahead, to move forward. And, we are the heroes and heroines of our own story.
So if you could have a round table of people that you admire, whether they're still on the planet or not, who would that table include?
Yeah, that table would just probably be some of the most creative and driven people I know, such as Maya Angelou. And of course, if Maya comes, Oprah will be there too. They're like, she loved her so much. So they're like a package deal. And I also would talk to Michael Jackson. I just think his creativity, he is a storyteller. He is a writer, or was a writer too. And so just that loss of that creativity, but really shining and exhausting your life. Like, I want to learn from those people. I want to know what drives them. I would like to get into the interworkings of their mind, to just to draw inspiration and to, get some motivation just to continue living my life and moving it forward on my own path. But even if I had to pick some regular average people, it'd probably be my granddad on either side, and my grandma and everybody that has gone on, and even my dad, who has passed away in 2011. Those people, just to pick their brain as a mature adult when they would have died, as a young person. My dad died when I was in my 30s, and now in my late 40s. Just to have more adult conversations because of the maturity level you have reached would be so insightful.
So speaking of having this level of motivation, there's a lot of motivated people that you mentioned, very accomplished people. You are yourself. What is that motivation, inspiration every day to wake up, to be you, and to evolve?
To be me and to evolve, it's just I want to do all I can with the time that I have. Time is short. As a person who has a disability, who has muscular dystrophy, most of my friends have died in their 30s and early 40s. And I just know a lot of them had so much more potential than they ever realized. It's just there's such defeat sometimes in dealing with chronic illness, in dealing with the condition, and it's really day by day. So it's really just, I am excited. I think one of the reasons we never talk about Stephen Hawking living so long is just sheer purpose and a sheer will that he was doing something every day, and that caused him to exceed all doctor expectations to live longer than anybody thought he would have, and not being able to move. From only his eyes, and that was it, to control things and the technology that came along with that. It is just amazing. I really think purpose and either having it or not having it is a major indicator. You have to have something to look forward to, and I look forward to writing. I look forward to speaking on this podcast with you, Joe. I just look forward to the things that are happening every day, and I try to have one thing that I'm excited about that I know that has sustained me these 47 years.
So your books have spoken to a lot of people. What's been one of your favorite fan letters you've gotten?
Well, I used to get letters from men in jail, And that was exciting until my mentor friends told me, don't write them back. But that was fun. That was exciting. Their letters were interesting. And of course, they had probably ulterior motives of, looking for a pen pal or a wife, even in jail. But other letters that I received from everyday people who talk about seeing themselves in my stories. A lot of my characters are struggling with their faith, struggling to trust God through adversity and through setback and loss and grieving, and people die with a couple car chases and things thrown in. But so whenever, it's so few and far between. I wish more readers would take just a moment to send a quick little email to the authors that they love. So I think that it's just an encouragement. It's just people talking about whether they laughed or they cried. Or I often have children in my stories. The children and their antics are so funny and hilarious and remind us of real life things that happen. So anybody who sends a letter, I keep them all. It's not even a letter. It's like a little tiny paragraph or 2 sentences. I keep it in the inspiration file for days that I am just not feeling my best. I read those, and that encourages me to keep working, keep plugging along, whether it's on the book or anything else in my life, just to keep going.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life up to this point. What advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that you think you can't do it, but go ahead and try, because you're going to surprise yourself. You're going to surprise other people. But yourself is the most important thing. And I also tell certain times when I kind of fell down, might have used my disability as a get out of jail free card, give myself a pass, and even a pat on the back for less than stellar performance. I would say, you know what, you could have did that, and I could have written a little bit faster to get more books out, but we're not on our own time anyway. So I would be more forgiving of myself, but to also tell myself, hey, that thing that you kind of flaked on, you really could have finished that, and you would be so much better for it.
So of all of the things that you've done and evolved into and become and overcome, what are you the proudest of?
I'm the proudest that I'm a good person, that I have not ever bereaved or grieved my parents. And I say that with a grain of salt because there is grief. My mother shares with me grief about having a disability and wishing that she could take it from me sometimes or just absorb it on herself. So there would be some things that I wouldn't have to go through with trying to get ahead, get a promotion, working with caregivers who sometimes don't give a care, just the little bouts of adversity that I have. But just being a good person, being a funny person, and being kind, those are the things and being, really fun, because I think humor can really de-escalate situations and help break barriers and reduce stigma. And so I think that those are some of the things that I'm most proud of, and that I've, started books and finished them. So many people have a book inside them. I think everybody should write a book. And I think everybody should finish that one project, because it's not for other people. It is for you. Every time you finish a project like that, it is totally for you to say you accomplished it. Now, if other people come along and enjoy what you've written, that is icing and a cherry on top. But to finish that project is an accomplishment every single time.
Out there has a perception of you. There's all kinds of pockets of people, family, friends, readers, clients, everybody. But you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a lot tougher than I think I am. I think that while I am kind, I have been told that I can really get people going. As far as my advocating for people with disabilities, I can be very obtuse. I can be very strong and kind of sometimes even steamroll people just to, let our voices be heard. So I think that I'm very resilient and resourceful. Like, that is the most exciting thing, is because I've had to adapt to my everyday. I'm always thinking of ways, how can I do this better? How can I adapt this? taking recipes and modifying them so I don't have to do so much physical exertion, things like that. Just being and knowing what's available in the community. God bless someone who knows what is needed in the community, where to get it, how to qualify for it, how to fill out the paperwork for it. We need more of those kind of resourceful people and people that are willing to help, others in that realm get access to those things that they need to enhance their quality of life.
That's such a great answer. Tracee, if anyone wants to pick up one of your books, hire you, learn more about you, reach out, what is the best way for them to do that?
The best way to reach me is to visit my website at www.traceegarner.com. That's 2 E's if you please. TraceeGarner.com. You can use the contact me, and you can also just email me at hello@TraceeGarner.com. I would love to hear from anyone, even if it's just to pick my brain, ask a question, and certainly, yes, hire me to help you with your book projects. I would love to hear from people.
I love your story, Tracee. I love your energy and enthusiasm. Thank you so much for taking time out today. Have a wonderful 2024.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.